There's a man sitting in a job interview. He has no experience, no relevant skills, no qualifications, but he walks in with the confidence of someone who has done this 1,000 times. He answers every question like he's the obvious choice. He leaves the room convinced he nailed it. He did not nail it. And the strangest part? He genuinely has no idea. Not even a little bit. This isn't just an annoying personality type. This is a documented psychological phenomenon, and it affects far more people than you think, including quite possibly you. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing it absolutely everywhere. Let's start with a bank robbery, because this story is too good not to tell. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A man named McArthur Wheeler walked into two banks in broad daylight, with no mask, no disguise, nothing to hide his face. He robbed both of them, in the middle of the day, on camera. And when police showed him the surveillance footage later that night, footage that clearly showed his face, he was genuinely stunned. Confused. He looked at the camera and said, "But I wore the juice." The juice. Wheeler had heard somewhere that lemon juice could be used as invisible ink. So he rubbed lemon juice all over his face before the robbery. He was convinced, completely, sincerely convinced, that this made him invisible to cameras. He was wrong, obviously. But here's the thing. He didn't know he was wrong. He was so incompetent in his understanding of how cameras and lemon juice work that he lacked the ability to even recognize his own incompetence. He couldn't see the gap because he didn't know the gap existed. That story landed on the desk of a psychology professor named David Dunning, and it made him ask a very uncomfortable question. If someone could be that wrong, with that much confidence, how common is this? How many people walk around every day absolutely certain about things they fundamentally don't understand? So he and his graduate student Justin Kruger ran a study. They tested college students on logic, grammar, and humor. Then they asked each student to estimate how well they thought they performed compared to everyone else. The results were striking. The students who scored in the bottom 25%, the ones who performed the worst, consistently believed they had done above average. Some of them thought they were in the top half. The less they knew, the more confident they felt. And the students who actually scored the highest, they slightly underestimated themselves. They assumed other people had done about as well as they had. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect, a cognitive bias where people with limited knowledge in a subject overestimate their own competence. And people with deep knowledge tend to assume the work is easier than it actually is, because to them, it feels natural. Think about it. When you first learn something new, a language, a skill, a subject, there's a brief, intoxicating moment where you feel like you're getting it. Like it's clicking. Like maybe you're actually pretty good at this. That feeling is real. And it's dangerous. Because at that point, you don't know enough to know what you don't know. You can't see the full mountain. You're standing at the bottom, thinking you've already reached the top. Psychologists call this the peak of Mount Stupid, and almost everyone passes through it. Then something happens. You go deeper. You learn more. And slowly, painfully, you start to realize how much you don't understand. The confidence collapses. Doubt creeps in. You wonder if you were ever good at this at all. This is the valley of despair. And a lot of people quit here. But the ones who push through, they come out the other side with something the first group never had. Real knowledge, genuine skill, and a much quieter, steadier kind of confidence. One that doesn't need to announce itself. Here's what makes this truly unsettling. The Dunning-Kruger Effect doesn't just show up in bank robbers and bad job interviews. It shows up in politics, in medicine, in business. Every field where people make decisions that affect other people. You'll find someone near the top who is dangerously certain about things they barely understand. And the truly incompetent rarely seek feedback because they don't think they need it. So how do you know if it's happening to you? That's the cruel paradox at the heart of this whole thing. If you lack the knowledge to recognize your own incompetence, how can you possibly see it in yourself? The honest answer is, you probably can't. Not fully, not on your own, but there are signs. If you find yourself getting irritated when experts disagree with you, that's a sign. If you've never once felt genuinely lost or confused in a subject you claim to know well, that's a sign. If the idea of being wrong feels more like an insult than a possibility, that's a very big sign. The smartest people in any room are almost never the loudest. They're the ones asking questions, the ones saying they're not sure, the ones who've been deep enough into a subject to know that certainty, real certainty, is extremely rare. Confidence is not the same as competence. And the gap between those two things, that gap is where the Dunning-Kruger Effect lives. The man who rubbed lemon juice on his face and walked into a bank wasn't stupid in the way we usually mean the word. He just didn't know what he didn't know. The question is, what are you rubbing on your face right now?